Dracula, the legendary vampire who haunts the darkest corners of history and imagination. But did you know the blood-soaked stories of the real man behind the legend are even more terrifying? This is the story of Vlad the Impaler, a ruler whose reign was built on fear, cruelty, and an iron will to survive. Vlad was born in 1431 in Transylvania, part of modern-day Romania. His dad, Vlad II Dracula, was a member of the Order of the Dragon, a group dedicated to protecting Christendom from the Ottoman Empire. The name Dracula means dragon in Romanian, but it also sounds a lot like devil, which was something his enemies certainly believed. Growing up, Vlad learned about power, war, and betrayal, lessons that would later define his brutal reign. When he was just a kid, Vlad and his brother were handed over as hostages to the Ottoman Empire. This was a move to secure his father's loyalty. Instead of being raised like royalty, they were treated like prisoners, subjected to brutal training and psychological torment. This period in his life shaped his worldview. He learned to be ruthless and trust no one. In 1448, after his father's death and betrayal by his own family, Vlad returned to Wallachia to claim the throne, and that's when things took a dark turn. Vlad III was hell-bent on revenge for everything he suffered. He began his campaign of cruelty. Vlad's favorite form of execution was impalement. The victim would be impaled through the anus or vagina, with the sharp end of the stake coming out of their mouth or chest, and they were left to die, sometimes for hours or even days, in excruciating pain. Vlad wanted to make sure everyone in his kingdom knew that crossing him meant suffering a death more horrific than anything they could imagine. Noblemen, merchants, and even peasants were skewered if they dared disobey him. He created a gruesome forest with 20,000 bodies on display, each impaled and left to rot in the sun. This was his way of showing the world that no one would escape his wrath. Vlad took cruelty to an even darker level when he invited his enemies to a banquet and then had his guards secretly impale them as they dined. He even had a table set up next to the impaled bodies for himself and his guests to enjoy the horrifying view. He believed that the more gruesome the execution, the more power he could assert. One of the most notorious events in Vlad's reign happened in 1459 at Târgoviște, where he invited thousands of Ottoman soldiers and nobles to his palace, only to have them locked in the courtyard and burned alive. To make his message clearer, he had their bodies impaled, and he sent this message to the Ottoman Empire: "If you come here, this is what will happen to you." But the most famous story of Vlad's cruelty involves Constantinople. He sent the Sultan of the Ottoman Empire, Mehmed II, a message saying he would pay tribute to the empire, but instead, he set out to invade. When the Ottoman army arrived, Vlad III had his own men executed in the most horrific way possible: boiling, burning, or being boiled alive in cauldrons. Vlad wasn't the kind of guy to make friends easily, and that eventually caught up to him. When he first took power, he made deals with the Hungarians, but over time, he started to get on their nerves. Vlad was supposed to be loyal to them, but he wasn't exactly a fan of following rules. By 1462, after some seriously aggressive attacks on the Ottomans, Vlad didn't follow through on some promises to the Hungarians, which ticked them off. The Hungarian king, Matthias Corvinus, had been putting up with Vlad for a while, but now he was done. Instead of being an ally, Vlad had become a headache. Around the same time, Vlad had angered the Ottoman Empire. Mehmed sent an army of over 100,000 soldiers to destroy Vlad's forces. Vlad tried everything. He used his guerrilla tactics to surprise them, even setting up traps to catch the Ottomans off guard. But when you're facing an army that big, your tricks won't save you forever. Eventually, Vlad had no choice but to retreat, but that was just the beginning of his troubles. After he was forced to pull back from the Ottomans, the Hungarians decided to imprison him. In 1463, they locked him up in a castle and stripped him of his power. He was stuck there for 12 years. While Vlad was in prison, his rivals were taking advantage. Radu, his own brother, who had sided with the Ottomans, was now in power in Wallachia. The throne was slipping further away from Vlad every day. In 1475, after being locked up for over a decade, Vlad was freed. The Hungarian king was hoping he could use Vlad against the Ottomans, so he decided to give him a chance to reclaim Wallachia. But by now, Vlad wasn't the guy people remembered. He tried to take back his throne in 1476, but things had changed. Radu was still in power, and the Ottomans were stronger than ever. Vlad didn't have the support he once did, and he was fighting not just enemies, but the fact that he was now outnumbered and out of options. After a few battles, Vlad's last stand came in 1476, and this time he didn't win. He was killed in battle. though no one really knows exactly how. Some say he was killed by Ottoman forces, while others believe his brother Radu or even some of the Hungarians betrayed him. The most famous rumor is that Vlad's head was chopped off, sent to Constantinople, and put on display as a trophy. Vlad the Impaler didn't need fangs to inspire fear. His reign was a real-life nightmare. In the end, his legacy stands as both a protector of his people and one of history's most brutal rulers. Sometimes the truth really is stranger and scarier than fiction.